Hello, welcome to the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. Welcome to another Talking Heads video. Today we're going to go over a few things. If you just want to know about the Akai MPC Live III, I've put that at the end, so you can skip the beginning bit and skip straight to that if that's what you're interested in. I'm going to go over a few other things today about the channel, about making music. You know the format for my Talking Heads videos. They're a little bit different from my normal videos. They're just talking, etc. Hence them being called Talking Heads videos. Now, over the last month or so, I've been experimenting with formats or experimenting with different styles of videos. I've been doing a few more beats from the big chair, and I have done a few tutorial style videos. I've done some of my videos where I give away some free packs, those kind of things. And I'm going to be honest, there has been a reason behind it. I've wanted to look into how I utilize the time that I have for making my YouTube videos. I've got quite a busy mixing and mastering schedule, and making these videos can sometimes take a day. So I want to spend my time wisely. And the reason why I wanted to try out the different formats over the last month or so was to see which ones were more popular. You know, I'm going to be honest. You know, the idea behind making YouTube videos where I do tutorials, make beats, or that kind of thing, you know, is obviously to reach people. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. If my videos only got 2 views, then I probably wouldn't bother doing my videos anymore. You know, there is there is kind of a reason behind it. I want to spread the word. My channel is monetized. I've never been secret about that. I've never been, you know, I've always been very open about the fact that I do make a bit of money from the fact that my videos are monetized. I think if anybody who has a monetized channel says that they don't care about what they make on the channel, it's probably a little bit of a fib. I'm going to be honest. Now, I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I don't make all of my month's salary from YouTube, but it's a nice little top up, I have to admit. But also, you know, the reason why I started my YouTube channel was to spread the word, was to pay it forward. I've told the story on a few occasions about when I first started working in studios in the early 80s, that I said to my mentor, how can I ever repay you? And he said, pay it forward. So that has been the inspiration behind my YouTube channel. It always has been. But, you know, I obviously want my videos to reach people. So I do keep an eye on which videos are more popular, and more so I have done over the last month or so. And what I've learned from all that, we're getting to it. What I've learned from that is that when I make focused videos on it's a tutorial focused on a particular mixing technique or mastering technique or beat making technique, they don't tend to reach as many people, or they don't tend to garner as much interest as the videos where I will make an actual beat and I might hide some of those techniques in those beat making videos. Also, my plugin reviews videos do tend to get more views. And obviously, if I make a video entitled Massive Akai MPC Rumor, then obviously those videos get 4 times as many views. And that's actually a fact. Check my numbers if you like. People are more interested in new gear. They are more interested in reviews on plugins and those kind of things. And there are people out there that are interested in mixing and mastering techniques. That's also a fact. But in the MPC community, those kind of videos do tend to garner slightly less interest. So what I'm probably going to be doing is I am going to continue to do, tutorial videos on mixing and mastering, but I probably will incorporate those in beat making videos. But there's another reason why I want to do that. Now, up to a couple of years ago, I was releasing on a regular basis. I was releasing tracks on other record labels and also the Crates Motel label. At one point, and this is going back a couple of years, I went about 2 or 3 years where I was releasing a 3-track EP every 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes 2 a month. And, I was churning out stuff. And that's how I've always been. I've always been, productive wise, I churn stuff out. And then a couple of years ago, that just kind of ground to a halt. I haven't actually released anything since November 2023. And that's no remixes, no re-edits, No brand new stuff on my own label, no brand new stuff on other people's labels. It just stopped. And it did kind of coincide with me making more videos on YouTube and me putting a lot of effort into my YouTube channel. And I'm grateful for where my YouTube channel has gone. Don't get me wrong. I am absolutely blessed to be able to share my knowledge, to pay it forward, to make a little bit of money on the side from these videos. I'm blessed. I'm truly blessed. And I'm so grateful for the support that I get from you guys and from all the people that I've met in the community over the last couple of years. But it has affected the amount of music that I make. What I tend to do, and I'm going to be, deadly honest about this and completely open about this. I tend to make demo tracks which will show a technique. So I'll make a track that will show how to compress kick drums, or I'll make a quick beat to show you how to work on the mix bus. But I'm not actually finishing anything. I'm not actually making music anymore for myself to release on my own label or for other labels or with other labels. And I've got to be honest with you, I almost kind of feel like I'm kind of not lying to my audience, but I think the proof's in the pudding, right? I think it's more inspiring if I'm going to be making videos where, for instance, this is just a thought that I'm throwing out of there that it's just literally come to me. If I was to make a video or make videos where I was crate digging, finding samples, making a beat, finishing the beat, actually finishing it, mixing it, mastering it, and then releasing it on my own label or going through the process of sending it to other labels, I think that would be a much better real world demonstration of beat making and of EQ and compression techniques. Because otherwise I literally have got hard drives full of 4-bar demos showing how to make or demonstrating techniques, demonstrating EQ and compression techniques. And that's just, I'm going to be honest, it's just not really doing it for me anymore. And I want to start releasing music again. But I also don't want to stop making videos on YouTube. I also want to be able to pay it forward. I also want to be able to continue to make my beat making and tutorial videos on YouTube. So thinking about it, I think it would be better for me, for my peace of mind. But I do also think for you guys who regularly watch my videos and for new people watching my videos, I think it would be better and more inspiring if I was to try and concentrate on making videos that kind of go through the whole process. I think it's important to people to be able to see, beats from their absolute, from the very, very start, right through them being finished to the point where they're released. And, I might actually be able to also pass on some knowledge to you guys about starting your own record label, about, releasing stuff yourself, not relying on other people, because the tools are there now. I started my own record label, 4 or 5 years ago, Crates Motel. And I had absolutely, despite the fact that I've been in the music business since the 80s, I had no real knowledge about running a record label. I had no knowledge about building websites. I had no knowledge about marketing. I had no knowledge, I left that to other people. I made music. I was a musician. I was a producer. I gave them to record labels. You deal with all that crap. You don't need to do that anymore. You can release on your own record label. It's not that difficult, honestly. It just takes a bit of time and a bit of research. And, since the 5 years ago, since I started my label, now you've got AI into the equation, and that is going to help even more. So there's not really any excuses now for you guys to not release your own stuff. You can't say, oh, I sent it out to a whole load of labels. Nobody listened to it. Nobody got back to me. Just put out your own stuff. The model for me was the Beastie Boys. When they started their own label and just sort of said, sorry, screw you, everybody else. They got screwed a few times by some labels, and they just decided to do their own thing. And they were the first people that I saw do that. I'm sure there were people before that, but there obviously were people before that. But the Beastie Boys model was what made me think, do you know what? You don't need to release. You don't need to send out endless demos to record labels anymore and then sit there by your phone or by your computer or by your fax machine waiting for labels to get back to you. You just don't need to do it anymore. So I think that I can add something to the community by making videos where we go from the concept fruition, the crate digging, the finding the samples. Some might not even turn out. Some of them, I think it's just as much value to people to see somebody making a beat and then, 4-bar beats, they've made it, and then they just think, actually, do you know what? This is not working. I don't like the way this sounds. Get rid of it, start again. There's value in that as well, because not every single beat that you start making is going to become a Grammy Award winning track. I know I make jokes about the Grammys thing, but I use that as a bar, I suppose. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And I think it's going to be more fun as well. I still haven't got together the Patreon that I said that I was going to do. Again, it's been time. I am still considering doing that. It is something that I'm going to do. I am going to be shifting everything from Bandcamp straight onto my website so people can buy directly from there, and Bandcamp don't take their massive cut anymore. Why should they? And that's another thing, that's another thing that maybe I can pass on. Building your own website. It was so easy and I had no knowledge at all. I signed up to Squarespace, and basically Squarespace shows you how to do it. And again, AI can do it. So you don't need to be selling your tracks on Bandcamp anymore. Learn a bit about marketing, build your own website, and just do it that way. Don't rely on other people anymore. You just don't need to. So that's what I'm going to be doing going forward, I think. Or at least, for the foreseeable, it might change. But I need to start releasing tracks again. I'm really getting the bug again. And, there are things that I want to do that I've been considering doing for years. I've been meaning to put together a lo-fi hip-hop album since the mid-90s, and I still haven't done it because I can churn out house tracks, and that's what I was doing. I was churning them out. But now I don't even churn out house tracks anymore. I don't do anything. I don't release any music anymore, and that's a lie to me. If I'm going to sit here and say to you, follow these beat making techniques, make this track, do this, use these techniques, but I'm not actually releasing any tracks. For me, that's a little bit of a lie. And there are so many other YouTube channels out there that do that. And now I'm not knocking those channels. Sorry, that sounds like I'm knocking those channels. But, we all know who these people are. We know what these channels are. We go to them regularly. We watch them. But they should be releasing stuff as well. I wish they were, because some of the music that they're making on there is fantastic. So I don't understand why they're not. And what it probably is, and again, I'm not knocking them, please. I'm not knocking these channels. They're probably stuck in the same rut that I'm stuck in. They're churning out YouTube videos, showing techniques, showing beats, but they're not actually getting the time to finish them. And, following them through right to the end. Or maybe they're scared to. Maybe they can't get past that point of finishing the track and actually sending it out to a label or putting it out on a label. So maybe that's where I can help. So, I just feel like it's a little bit of a lie when you're sat there churning out tutorial videos, but you're not really following it through and you're not actually releasing stuff. Look at people like Bolo and stuff, those kind of people. They've got history, they've put tracks out. Like myself, I've spent 30 or so years releasing tracks. And it's not that I'm saying I'm digging myself into a hole here, aren't I? It's not that I'm saying that if you make videos and you don't release stuff, then that's bad. What I'm trying to say is I'm the type of person that, I'm speaking about myself here and I'm not speaking about other people. I used to release stuff on a regular basis. I don't anymore because I make YouTube videos instead. And now I want to start releasing stuff again. Why not document it in a YouTube video? That's what I was trying to get to. So forget all that other stuff that I just said. I might even edit it out. So if the video is a little bit choppy and you're like, what's Conan talking about now? It's because I've edited a big chunk out. But if I haven't edited the big chunk out, it's still in there. So all that said and done, now let's get to the part of the video that most of you have probably tuned into this video for. I didn't want to make another Akai MPC Live III rumor video. I wanted to wait until there was a bit more, that things were a bit more solid. So now I don't consider what I'm about to do to be a rumor video. I consider it to be a confirm what we know video. Still call that a rumor video if you want. There have been FCC pictures leaked. There's been FCC stuff leaked for quite some time. Now, I am not going to now show you those pictures. I've seen them. I've gone through them in detail. I'm not going to show them because part of that FCC leak included confidentiality agreements. And look, there are going to be people now that show those FCC photos and everything on it. In fact, there's probably videos being made right now that are going to be out by the time I release this video. So I don't think I need to show those photographs, and I'm not going to. I'm going to honor that confidentiality agreement that was signed between InMusic, Akai, and the people that were testing the equipment. So I'm not going to show those photos. If you want to see those photos, they're out there. Look for them. They're on websites, they're on Facebook pages, and they're probably now going to be on Untold Akai MPC Live III rumor videos, or confirm what we know videos. So they're going to be out there. So I don't need to do that. What I am going to do is I am going to talk about some of the things that have been leaked, as in some of the things that are included in those photos that I noticed. The big thing for me was that I noticed that there was no Ethernet port, and there was now a USB-C port. That's it, instead of the old school big, like, clunky one. Now, for me, and this is subjective, I like to have an Ethernet port on there. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Is the USB-C port still going to be able to be converted to are you going to be able to put an adapter in it and make a Ethernet port? Is the USB-C port going to be able to take USB-C external batteries? That would be cool. I find USB-C ports a little bit fragile. So I think for a portable unit, actually even a unit that's in the studio that you might move around, which is kind of what the live versions of the MPC are, I think that maybe a USB-C port might be a little bit fragile. Perhaps they could have worked out some way of locking it. I like the big clunky one on the back of the Live II because it locks in place and it's not as easy to pull out. So that does worry me a little bit. But if the trade-off is that you can power your MPC from an external battery easily enough, just one of those ones that you can buy cheap from Amazon, then that's amazing. That's going to be a big improvement. The improvements on the spec are good from what I saw. We do also have to bear in mind that all of those FC photos and all of those FCC photos, etc., it could still be a prototype. It might not be the finished version. I just want to throw that out there. I have seen a few other people mention that it could be a prototype, and they're absolutely right. It could be. It might not be the finished product. There are a few things I noticed on it that I thought it didn't look quite finished to me. But overall, I'm going to leave my subjective opinion out here. I'm going to be objective. Overall, the improvements looked good. The additional buttons on there, that's all good. It looks like they're lit from behind, which would be good for dark studios. The pad buttons, I'm assuming they're still going to be full size. I'm just assuming that. It's a bit difficult to tell from the photographs, but I think they are. I don't think they're going to be the reduced size that are on the MPC One. I hope they're the full size ones. They look a little bit different, the lighting on them and stuff like that. That, you know, again, if that's an improvement, then we're being objective rather than subjective. I did make a video about people's expectations. I think we do still need to be careful about what our expectations are. The improvement in the RAM and the processing power and stuff, it's still not going to be as good as your laptop. It still might not be even as good as your iPad and your phone. So manage those expectations still, guys. I don't think that you're suddenly going to be able to run full spec stems and it's going to separate your stems out in 20 seconds. That's just not going to happen. I think you also have to understand that for the foreseeable future, the software, the operating system, the plugins are still going to have to be compatible with the older versions of the MPC Live II and the MPC One and the MPC X. So there's not going to be any major jump there, because they're not going to immediately start releasing plugins that are only going to be able to be used on the new gen of MPCs. That's what I think anyway, because you're just going to alienate everybody. And so they're going to have to still cater for that for some time. You know, like with the Microsoft model, where you can still run Windows 7, Windows 10, etc. But they are starting to gradually phase out plugins now that can't be used on Windows 7. It now has to be 10 plus. So, and I did explain this in more detail in my other video, so feel free to check that out. But the specs overall are an improvement. How much of an improvement we will see when it actually gets released. So it's not a rumor video, it's a confirm what we now know video from those FCC photographs. But again, I am still bordering on caution because it could be a prototype and the specs could actually ultimately be improved by the time it actually comes out. We've all seen the leak on the Canadian Music Shop website, and that gave a list of specs. It didn't list all of the specs, but the specs that it did list did seem to be an improvement, but they could be even better by the time it actually comes out. And that is based on the fact that perhaps that was a prototype, or perhaps the specs were what were tested. So we have to be careful. And I mean, you know, go and find those FCC photographs and all of the agreements and the specs. There's internals, there's externals. They're obviously not supposed to be out there because of that confidentiality agreement. I've never found it difficult saying that word until this video. So that agreement obviously said these photographs are not supposed to be released. So somebody has leaked those, and, you know, did Akai and InMusic leak them on purpose? Again, we don't know. We never will know. But it's got us talking. The marketing is being done for them. The hype is out there. The hype is massive. So if those photographs, FCC, etc. stuff was leaked on purpose, fair play to Akai and InMusic. It's probably what I would do if I ran a company. And let's be honest, it's not the first time that companies have done that. So we never know. Well, we'll never know. But the hype is real. So when that will come out, don't know. It could have actually even been released today. People are saying September 24th, September 23rd. It didn't come out on the 23rd. I'm making this video on September the 24th, so it's possible that it comes out today. It's possible that whilst I'm actually making this video, it's being posted on music shops and it's now available. Who knows? Anyway, so that's my talking heads for today. I've rambled on a little bit longer than I expected to. I was going to try and keep to like about 5 minutes, but that was never going to happen with Conan. Conan always likes to ramble, as you know. But thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for watching. This is the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. Till next time.